So again, thank you so much for attending our first info session. Men Heal is a workforce development program that is focused on building a more representative behavioral health workforce in New York City. So this program centers on men of color. It recruits, trains, and support men of color into the behavioral healthcare field, and also this is just more than a training, right? Our participants or scholars, that's what we call them, receive education, career development, and supports that leads to a long-term employment opportunity. So our goal is just not representation, but we also want to increase diversity in behavioral health workforce. This program helped create services that better reflect and serve New York City communities. And of course, with strong partnership, Men Hill is made possible with many of our New York City agencies from 1199 SEIU, my personal favorite unions, with the NYC Young Men's Initiative, with the New York City Human Resource Administration representing, and also the Mayor's Office of Community and Mental Health. So again, thank you so much for coming and learning a little bit more about Men Heal. Now, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the challenges on the next slide. So behavioral health needs are growing, right? But our workforce isn't keeping pace with that growth. So we're facing several key challenges. And first is the significant shortage of behavioral health professionals. So I really commend all of you all for being in your last final year, if you are in your mental health program. And we really want to focus on just creating demand for behavioral health services and continue to increase. Again, there is a shortage of behavioral health professionals, and men of color just continue to remain unrepresented in the behavioral health workforce. And also, many communities are mostly impacted by systematic inequities that often face the greatest barriers by accessing culturally responsive care. So again, our main goal is just to continue to support you all. And just to kind of throw in a little bit of data, 26% of mental health professionals are Black, 20% of the mental health professionals are Latino, right? And 23% of the social workers are currently male, while 28% of the mental health professionals are male. So again, we really want to bring this service and support to y'all to help create a positive impact and get more men into the healthcare field or into mental health and behavioral health field.
Nice, thanks, Trey. And I think building on what Trey just shared, you heard more of the challenge in the sector, and for those of you who are practicing or about to practice and in this field, you know some of these challenges, and our program is here to answer and respond to that with the opportunity that we're creating here. So what we want to do is create a behavioral health space that looks that offers more holistic supports and pathways. So we're doing that through building this career pipeline, that we'll share a little bit more about how those wraparound supports will hopefully build a more diverse workforce in the behavioral health space. And then we also want to make sure that the folks that need the mental health supports, the behavioral health supports, kind of speaking to the issue and the problem that Trey was naming, have that. We know that research says that when your therapist and counselor looks like you, the likelihood of you engaging in those behavioral health supports is increased. And so this program is in place to, one, diversify the career aspect of that, but also two, to engage more young people or just people in general, in particular for this program, Black and Brown young men, into the behavioral health space. So we want to get more of this population engaged in mental health support. All right, so let's move to what this pilot is, what we mean by the word pilot, and how we're planning to build this out this year, but also hopefully in the following. All right, so what is a pilot? If you've ever designed something or been in the design thinking space, you've probably heard the term before. It's basically our way of testing a model, a framework, an idea. And so we want to pilot this program this year by bringing in a cohort that is already in their degree program, and we're going to try some things out, and we're going to reflect on how those things work for our participants and scholars and learn from that. so that we can improve and improve and improve. So this is just the first step to building a program that we hope will have longevity here in the city. And so we're really excited to get our first cohort of participants so that we can, one, support them and support our scholars with all of these services, but then two, to learn from our scholars what's working, what's not working, and how can we improve on that model. And so how we got to this place, we, one of our partners that we have in it, I want to shout out now is the design studio with the Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity. One of the ways that they have been strong partners in building this out is engaging men of color who are either in the field now, who are interested in the field, or who are current students, fielded interviews, focus groups. We had a design thinking session. And all of that information that we collected from just listening um, turned into the core components of what this program model should have. So we listened to folks who look like who we want to serve and who we want to engage to inform how this program model was designed.
Right. And just to kind of transition, I always like to share a quote. Culture is simply a shared way of doing something with passion. So we create these program values to help create the culture of Ben Hill, right? So these values are will be embedded through the program, but not just ideas, but just mainly focused on practices. So first up is reducing harm and destigmatization. We want to create a safe and supportive environment where conversations about mental health are normalized, right? It's typically not normalized within, if you identify as a male, but we just want to make sure that that forum will always be open and something you could talk about. Dignity-centered language, also with program design. We refer to participants as scholars, recognizing their strengths and their potential. Again, you really invested in your education, and we truly recognize that. And again, we want to help support you to get to the finish goal. Asset-based and non-clinical approach. We focus on each scholar's skills, experiences, goals, rather than deficits. Healing center engagement. Again, we want to support the whole person, just recognizing that personal well-being is essential to professional growth. And last but not least, culturally rooted and historically grounded practice. Workshops, discussions, and supports reflect the lived experiences and cultural strengths of the communities that we serve. So it's, again, just not about just who we serve, but it's about how we engage, how we teach, how we support and prepare scholars for careers in the behavioral health field. And now we'll go over the 7 key pilot program offerings. So as you see, the timelines from October 2026 to May 2027 are for the pilot program offerings, and then we'll dive into post-graduation services, which is job placement and networking events. So first up is financial support. Of course, being a student, as a former student myself, finance is important, right? The bills don't stop. We, have to get to school. We have to take care of ourselves, pay rent if you're paying rent. So our main focus is making sure, or one of our main focus is to make sure scholars will receive a living and learning stipend to offset some of the costs of living expenses. For instance, if you are using, transportation, if you're using a train or a bus to get to, school, we will, provide you with the Omni card. So, you don't have to worry about, I'm going to pay the $3 to get on the train to get to school, right? We'll also offer you a stipend so you can, help alleviate some of the stress that comes with going to school. So, we're here to support you. Next up, one of my personal favorite is the mentorship piece. And I would say, mentorship definitely plays a key part of the Men Hill experience. I'll definitely talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. So again, to the best of our ability, we will match scholars with a mentor who has, who's based in the behavioral health experience, whenever possible, shared cultural, linguistic, and lived experience, right? So the main goal is to create a meaningful relationship that provide guidance, encouragement, and also career insight. So scholars, such as yourself, will meet with their mentor at least once a month throughout the program. Group events with the mentors and fellow scholars will help build community amongst yourself, expand your networks, and also strengthen professional connections. And the mentorship also supports with both professional growth and long-term success within the behavioral health field. So again, we want to connect you with people who look like you, who are doing the work that is so required and so important. So you are building a strong network amongst yourselves and amongst professionals.
And so, in addition to the mentorship piece and the financial supports, we'll also be providing our scholars with workshops, so professional development workshops. And the goal here is not to overwhelm our scholars with more classes, sessions to attend on top of the degree programs that they're already engaged in, but to add a layer of culturally responsive trainings that will hopefully strengthen the existing curriculum and career training that scholars are already engaged in. So these are just some examples of how workshop topics, or some of the workshop topics that we heard from the folks that we interviewed and engaged in focus groups that would be helpful to pull together. So we're in the process of developing that curriculum now. And if there are any, especially when we get to the Q&A section, if there are other topics that come to mind that just folks on this call think would be helpful, please drop that in the chat or share that with us, because we can always layer that feedback and include that in our curriculum development. So please don't look at this as an exhaustive list, but one that we're still building and is very much alive. But we also want to be responsive to the needs of the community that we aim to serve primarily, but also our scholars who will be in this program. And these will be a mix of like in-person and virtual, just to be mindful of folks' ability to engage. In addition to the workshops, we'll offer some resource navigation. And by that, that can be anywhere from just city and state services, childcare support, food assistance, healthcare, just using the city agencies that are building this program to your ability, like to the best of your needs. And so HRA, the Human Resources Administration, Career Services, which is where Trey works, has a wealth of resources at their fingertips. And so it's so it's such a good thing that they're one of our partners in this work, because they're a very direct channel to pointing our scholars to these services, for themselves, for their families, for those who they're supporting. So that resource piece is a huge part of this. And now we'll go to licensure exam prep. We know that as a part of preparing to enter the workforce, you're going to need to take a test and you're going to need to be licensed. And so if you are a part of the Career Pathways Training Program, aka CPT, Trey mentioned one of our partners earlier through 1199 TEF. I know that there is some exam fee reimbursement. And if you're not a part of CPT and join the cohort, we have funds to support our scholars with the cost of exam and exam reimbursement. So we want to make sure that even if schools and specialized programs aren't supporting scholars with these resources, that this program can kind of like cover the gap in the areas that may not be covered from some of the other supports.
All right. And post graduation services. So, you've gone through the program, are now a licensed mental health counselor, a licensed mental social worker, you know, almost there at the finish line. We have to help you with job placement. And that is where we will come in and support you. So again, just representing career services, we have a strong list of community partners that are currently looking for licensed mental health counselors or licensed mental social workers. So again, our main goal is to make sure that you all find quality employment, right? So we're going to connect you with high quality employer partners. The employers will be assessed for alignment with the program ethos and goals. So again, we're just not going to match you with anyone that say, hey, we need to hire someone fast. No, we're going to make sure that we connect you to an employer partner that matches your career goals and matches exactly what you want to do. And of course, your your end goal. So the city will continue to grow, and of course, out of this network, it'll grow over time, right? So we are also part of the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, also Office of Community and Mental Health, Business and Human Services, who I'm representing again here today, hiring MSc and community hiring portfolio. So again, we want to make sure that you find employment once you are a licensed mental health counselor or licensed mental social worker.
And then our networking event. So a part of the what we heard from feedback was that being in community was also a very important part of this program model and the way that support and the value of support shows up. So we want to make sure our scholars engage with each other, with other professionals that are currently in the field, and in the long term, alumni from the program. And so this is just a big way that one of the ways that we'll cultivate community, and ensure that there's sharing of resources, but also just like sometimes just dropping the titles and dropping the formalities of our actual schools and programs and degrees and really just connecting on a human level. So this is just a way to be in community, and we're going to bake that into our program design as well.
All right, so we're going to talk about a little bit of pilot program eligibility. So, who can apply? Of course, priority will be given to those who are currently enrolled in Career Pathways training program, or CPT for short. Scholars not enrolled in the CPT are definitely more than encouraged to apply, and of course, you'll be accepted based on capacity. In addition to that, you will have to be 18 years of age and older. I'm assuming everyone here is 18 years of age and older, especially on Look It. Currently enrolled in a university or college in New York City. You must be academically qualified with a minimum of a 2.0 GPA. Also committed to working in New York City in the behavioral health system, right? Of course, we don't want to give you this program, give you all the support, and you move to PA, which is nice. But of course, we want you to continue to, support the New York City community. And last but not least, pursuing a degree in one or more of the following: either the Master of Social Work (MSW) or a Master's of Mental Health Counseling or MHC.
All right. And so let's talk a little bit about the timeline. Where are we in the timeline? What's to come? What you can expect. So the application for this program is currently live. We have, I know for sure, over 50, maybe 60, 70 applicants so far. So the competition is going to be a little, we have some wonderful applicants, and I'm really excited about that. So if you haven't applied, please get your application in, nudge the people in your network to get that in as well. The application deadline closes on August 10th. That is a hard deadline, so make sure you get your application in. It's not a heavy lift. That's my perspective, but I know everyone's different, and we'll talk a little bit about that application walkthrough just to make sure you don't have any questions there, because we want to support you even in that process. So applications in August 10th, and then we will start interviewing. We will, for your awareness, interviewing. I'll leave it at that. Interviews will happen, and we will begin selecting in September, and hope to identify and notify our scholars no later than mid to late September, because in the fall, we want to have our first event where we bring all of our scholars together, meet each other, ideally have some programming on the table, and start preparing for our year together as a cohort. In the spring of 2027, we'll start talking more about internships and employment placement. And then throughout, we'll have some networking events, but for sure, as we close the first year of the pilot, have some at the end of the school year and even throughout the summer. So, because one thing we also heard from feedback is that having some summer support after after your degree programs would also be helpful. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. And then I think we're going to talk about this a little later, but something else to name as we're talking about timeline. Trey mentioned mentorship. You will have mentors. Scholars will have mentors in this program, and that is an ongoing support. So that should you should kind of think of that throughout the entirety of the program.
All right. So, of course, with every pilot, we always want to have program evaluation. So, just some of the outcomes and the metrics that we're looking to capture is, of course, one, the trusted mentoring relationship. So again, we'll connect you, get you connected with a mentor, and we just want to make sure that the relationship is symbiotic. You're learning something from the mentor's also learning something from you, right? And it's helping you sort of get to that end goal of becoming a licensed MSW or MHC. Career confidence. We want you to be confident in the career that you're choosing, right? A lot of people, speaking for myself, I went to college for one thing, and I end up doing something else, and that's perfectly okay. But we just want to make sure that you are thoroughly invested in behavioral health, right? Again, there's a goal to get more men into behavioral health field. So again, we just want to make sure that you are 110% confident. If you're not, we're here to help and support you and guide you. Of course, obtain the credentials, again, between the financial support, the licensure exam prep. We're here to support you and make sure you achieve your credentials. Sustain employment. Again, post graduation, we want to get you connected to employment as quickly as possible. So we're, again, focused, and we'll give it our 100% effort to find you a great employer that will hire you. Supportive peer networks. Again, this is something that's super important. Network is definitely something you want to build when you're employed, but I think it's great to start building that before you're employed while you're in this transitioning phase outside of education. So we're focused on making sure we get you connected to each other as scholars and also to future mentors as well. And last but not least, economic mobility through wage and promotion growth. Again, this is I like to call it, I think of it as a lifelong program. Beyond building your network and graduating, you will be part of you will be a Mental scholar. And we just want to make sure that, your network is here to sustain and help you grow. And also you have the option of economic mobility throughout the, different roles you have in your life. And now I'm just going to quickly talk about the application, and I promise it is not burdensome. So if you haven't applied, now is the perfect time to apply while the link is in the chat. So, promise you, we're not going to ask you to write a thesis or a 10-page paper saying why you want to apply for Men Hill. That's great. Save it for school. We just want to get to know a few things about you, just your full name, your school email, personal email, of course. Are you 18 years or older? Again, I think everyone here is 18 years or older. If not, kudos to you. About your background, your race and ethnicity. Again, we just want to get more men into the behavioral health field. And last but not least, gender identity. So if you identify as a male, that's great. Again, this program is here to support you. So all you have to do is just apply and answer these few questions. Just, are you enrolled in a CPT program? Again, career pathways training program. If you aren't, we still encourage you to apply. Again, it's just built on a acceptance basis. What college or university are you currently enrolled in? Of course, you must be enrolled in a graduate program in a university or college in New York City. Anticipated graduation date, your cumulative collegiate GPA. Again, we're looking for folks that have a minimum of 2.0 and higher, and just briefly share your career goals post graduation. Right. So we just want to make sure that this is a right fit for you, but also be a right fit for the program.
And
Oh,
oh, go ahead, Trey.
oh, got you. Thank you. And just which graduate level behavioral health degree you're looking to pursue. So again, if you're social work, mental health counseling, further, definitely want to mention that. And just what type of supports would you be most interested in receiving, right? So just keep in mind this is a pilot. We're looking to always improve, in future programming. So if there's something here that that it interests you or we should add on to the next cohort, by all means, please let us know. Again, we want to make sure that this gets better and better for each future cohort to come. And just prepare for your interview. I promise this is not going to be a 100-step interview or anything like that. We want to help support you. I also just want to identify future scholars that will be a good fit for the program. So you'll speak with the panel committee, just talk about your educational experience, your career goals, your interests, of course, in behavioral health, and just share your specific interests in the New York City Men Heal, right? We want to support your educational pursuits, your career growth, and your community impact. So, um, no worries, it's not 15 interviews you have to go through. Just gonna speak with a panel, get to know you a little bit more, get to know us a little bit more, and just see if this is a right fit for both parties. All right. So you've definitely heard myself and Dr. Chambers talk for the past 20 plus minutes. We'd love to hear and answer any questions you may have about the program. But most importantly, we're super excited to have you show up to this info session, learn more about Main Hill, and hopefully support you as a future scholar to come. All right, and I'll turn over to Ryan. Hey, Ryan.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I just have a suggestion. I don't know if I should put this in the chat or if I should just say it here, but as I'm in social work school, I'm entering my second year, and one of the challenges that I find with my program is that a lot of social workers don't know some of the entrepreneurial pursuits that can be some of the entrepreneurial pursuits. So like learning how to become a mediator as a social worker. To make extra money. I go to Hunter, and Hunter's kind of like directs most of its students to work for an agency, whereas it seems like Columbia and NYU directs its students to open private practices. Like there are other ways to make money, and I think that's really important for us. And that's just one of the things that I have. Thanks.
No, we definitely appreciate your suggestion, Ryan. Again, employment looks different for most people, right? Whether it's running an agency or, building and designing your own company in a sense. And my job, as executive director, of course, work with the program manager and your future career navigators is to better understand like what your future goal endeavor is, right? So if it's, want to start your own company, we'll be more than happy to share resources or guide you to those resources to help you create your own company, right? As we're talking to different mentors, some may be entrepreneurial, some may not, and we'll take that into consideration and try to get you to the next best step that is associated with your future. Thank you. And I see Terry Paris.
Yeah, good afternoon to everybody. First and
Good afternoon.
foremost, I want to say thank you for this opportunity and it's informational. I think it's very important that we find a space where Black men are able to share some concerns and just different ways that we can impact our communities. My question is, in my experience in working in social services as a Black man, I feel like the experience of a Black man, for one, is very unique, and I oftentimes feel like it's marginalized in a lot of excuse me organizations. Can this program help to navigate some of the challenges of climbing the managerial ladder? I've been a supervisor several times, but oftentimes I feel like from my personal experiences that I haven't had um, leaders who would like to help or show me as a Black man how to navigate the challenges of trying to climb the ladder in a lot of these organizations. Sometimes it's dominated by women and sometimes not even Black men at the top. So I feel like in sharing our experiences, we have a great connection with the young individuals that we're working with. But I always see a glass ceiling, like trying to get past being a supervisor. And so I'm looking for an opportunity where I could learn how to navigate through those spaces and use my skill set to, further my journey.
No, it's a very good question, Terry. So to definitely kick us off, all of you scholars will be men, right? Or identify as a man. So I think that's a great network to build because we're all, looking at it almost through like the same glass lens, right? Next step is definitely the workshops that we'll be providing in addition to the mentors that we'll be pairing you with, right? So some of those workshops will help, be tailored to, maybe some like Eastern beliefs or like how to navigate the workforce or just to navigate the system in general. So, we'll definitely keep that into consideration, keep that in mind. because you're right, it's definitely not easy being a man in certain aspects of our life, especially in the field that you're working in. And we're, again, want to make sure that we're here to support you and support everyone else that may be going through the same thing you are. In addition to the workshops, also the mentors as well. We want to make sure we have mentors that look like us, right? And are working in the same field as them, maybe went through the same issues of, like, dealing with a supervisor that's different, that may not understand, or even from a different cultural background, right? So we definitely want to just keep that all in consideration while we're building out this pilot for sure. We hear you, brother. To wrap it up, we definitely hear you. We want to support you.
And I see Luca asked a great question in the chat too. Thank you, Heather, for responding. This is absolutely open to all folks, period. And you will be considered if you identify as a man, trans man especially, or in addition, yes.
Perfect. I'll pass it back to Ryan.
Okay, I want to give somebody else a chance. I don't want to take up too much time, but I have a suggestion for a workshop. On IG, there's this doctor who talks about some of the disparities in healthcare, and what I notice is in my program at Hunter, I think there's a need to discuss cultural competencies and some of the differences in systems, differences in symptoms and treatment for people of color. So example, we were talking about depression, and when my professor listed all the symptoms, I was like, you left out the ones for the Black and brown people. And the class was like, oh, they're different. If we could have like a workshop, because symptoms, depending on the illness, can look different, and treatment can look different as well. And I think it'll be really meaningful and impactful for us to learn that information. So,
yeah, right on, Ryan. And I think I know which IG person you're referring. I just saw that too. So yeah, so we're absolutely thinking along those lines, and that type of support and workshop training is exactly what we mean with culturally responsive. So thank you for lifting that up.
Sure. And one more, if we have time.
Absolutely.
I just finished my first year, and I attended the NASW conference, which is a professional organization, and it was great. And I think one of the opportunities that's missed by people of color is attending or connecting to professional organizations, especially before we go into your final year, because there are opportunities to connect with organizations a year before, so you can have a job and start that process early. So like the NASW, the National Association of Black Counselors, there are a number of them. And yeah, it would be great if they could attend some of our networking opportunities, or just be in contact, especially before we graduate.
Absolutely. That's something that we definitely thought about, Ryan, and we'll definitely try our best to make sure that there are, our future networking events. It's not going to be a one and done networking event. We're going to plan to have a couple throughout the program.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. I'll pass it over to Rajon Wilson.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, thank you guys. This is actually my second time. I was with your guys at the school when you presented at the school, so I met your guys there. I have like two questions. The first question is, I understand the program helps follow you after graduation and into employment, but what about those of us who might be actually seeking postmaster's degree, like a doctoral program, where you'll be able to still follow us through that particular part of our phase of our career or education? The second question is, for those who are not a part of the CPT program, and your guys come to a cap with meeting everyone, the 25 individuals who are CPT individuals, what are the potentials, or how possible can a mentorship still happen for those who are not part of that program, if there are any?
Absolutely. Both very good questions, Rajan. Just to answer the second question and hop into the first one. Definitely we accept all applications, right? So CPT or non-CPT, we definitely encourage you to apply for it. Of course, there's a process. We want to interview, see if you're a good fit, and we'll definitely make a decision once we interview everyone, right? To enroll them as a scholar into Main Hill. So, and to answer the first question, right? Every workforce development program would say we're with you for life, right? So as long as in your network, I'm here to support you. Whether it's finding employment after you're graduate from the Middle Hill program, or just explore any opportunities. We have a dedicated team of career navigators that will be there to support you throughout the step of the way.
Thank you.
No problem. You're welcome, and thanks for coming back again. We appreciate that. I hope you put in an application, by the way.
Already submitted.
Perfect. Any other questions or suggestions? Ryan?
So I was wondering about a licensing study group. Again, I'm entering my second year, which means that licensing in New York will happen after I graduate, but I'm studying for the New Jersey exam first, because we can take that before we graduate as we enter into our second semester. Do I have study groups? Are you planning to put together a study group? Or is there any timeline for when we should start that process as part of the Men Heal program?
No, it's an amazing question, Ryan. And with a pilot, right? I think we are learning what's working and what's not working. And I think with like all these suggestions that you have, it's definitely a great way to, put that into the program, right? So it's not to say that we can't do it. It's something that we could definitely look into and create a study group, because that test is difficult, right? I've had a friend that failed the test 3 times, and on her 4th time she got it. So I think that's a very amazing suggestion, and that's something that we could definitely look into. Again, we want all of y'all to pass it on the first try if possible, but I think a study group will definitely be a great idea and suggestion.
Ryan, you want to be on the design team. I can tell.
Sure.
This is great. Great suggestions, John. Great questions.
Thanks.
Well, I
We
love
can
that.
talk about a job.
All right, Lehens. Hope I pronounced the name right.
Yes. And I attended as well the first session at the fire department house. So I see that we kind of recapped on some information. I did just want to ask too, I see that Heather put in the chat that like one of the things that y'all are looking for is workforce diversification, like in different public sectors. Is that like the primary goal? Is it more about mental health, that men being more mental health counselors in these spaces? I'm asking correctly. I hear a lot about like the mental health aspect more so.
No, absolutely. We definitely we'll love to have more men or folks identify as men within the behavioral health and the mental health space. So like working in nonprofits, working publicly in the public sector, private sector, that's something that we definitely want to see more of. And that's the whole purpose of this program. So I have more men in this space. It's desperately needed.
I can.
Yeah, I can
go
go for it, LaQuisha.
No, you got it.
Sure. Yeah, by diversification,
meaning that we know in the public sector there's a severe workforce shortage, like Trey shared in the beginning. And within that shortage, we also need more people of color, more men of color. And so in terms of where we're hoping that Menn-Heal graduates will work, we do want folks that can devote some of their time to serving in the public sector, meaning working in a nonprofit, working in a public school or a public hospital, because that's a major gap that the city is committed to filling.
And I would just add that for those who are part of the CPT program, there is a commitment to working in the public sector, specifically in organizations that serve a Medicaid population. And so we also want to reinforce kind of those goals of getting more men of color and more folks into behavioral health roles within those organizations, those types of organizations.
Does that answer your question, Lahens?
Yes, it does.
And Heather and LaQuisha are both on our partnership team, so they both represent the Mayor's Office of Community Mental Health. So thank you both for that. Brian?
Okay, I have one.
And I don't disagree with them about like the wages, right?
I
know.
Oh, I have one like programmatic, I guess, question for whoever is here from the mayor's office. I noticed that like in Indeed, LinkedIn, there's kind of like a lot of social worker positions there. Also, other kind of like titles that are used, and I'm wondering, to meet some of the needs, is it possible to do kind of like some title changes, et cetera, to meet some of the needs? Because some of the needs don't require licensing. They can be fulfilled by a pre-licensed person. Also, because some of us, again, are pre-licensed people, can some of those jobs be fun, like pushed in our direction, especially like in the in-between summer, to or make those internships, paid internships, like during the summer at hospitals, et cetera. If there's a need and we're educated, or we're educated in multiple disciplines, there are definitely spots that we can actually meet.
Yeah, 1000% agree that having requirements around licensure can be limiting, and removing those requirements would definitely open up more opportunities for people who are pursuing degrees, who have received their degrees but may not be licensed. And so those are things that we are looking at as a city. I will say that part of the reason you see that sometimes is related to Medicaid billing requirements and licensure requirements for clinics and different type of service providers. So those sorts of licensures and Medicaid billing requirements, et cetera, sometimes call for a licensed clinician, even though we may not agree that a licensed clinician is necessary for some of those roles. So that's something that our office and Heather's team in particular is looking at as we try and find different ways to really address this workforce crisis. So your point is very well taken.
Yes, there are so many ways to go about it. We put out a report a couple of years ago and incorporated some data from an advocacy group called Social Workers for Justice. You're familiar, right? So the other route is to say you should be able to get a license without having to take an exam that's culturally biased and proven to have these major disparities. And there is legislation in New York, but it's moving forward slowly, but in other states that's already happened, and we've seen the workforce grow tremendously when you just make that change to saying you can't have a license without it going through the process of an exam. So folks that are interested in policy and advocacy, feel free to look into Social Workers for Justice that are tackling that. And I also want to just highlight, there's a couple questions in the chat. I think the second one can be answered quickly, which is that for folks that are accepted into MenHeal, you'll be connected with a mentor, you'll be connected with a career navigator, and as we organize these components like exam prep, we'll be sure that all participants have the right contacts. I hope that answers your question, Pascal. Trey, do you want to take the one on interview scheduling?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Heather. So yeah, for sure. We are currently reviewing the applications right now. So of course, we anticipate schedule some interviews hopefully by the end of this week, and you can interview as quickly as the second week of August. So just remember, application deadline is August 10th. So if you're still on the cusp of applying, hopefully this info session answered all your questions and may entice you to apply. If not, again, for I know some folks did apply already, so definitely apply, and we'll start outreaching folks by tomorrow or early part of next week. Rajan?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on the actually my social work professor this semester has actually got approved to do like a research on individuals who are actually trying to not take the exam. So he's actually been approved to do research on that. So that is something that people are looking into this year.
Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing, Rajan. We'd love to hear what your professor finds. So hopefully, if you do become a scholar and want to move forward, we'll definitely keep our eyes on you for that.
It's opened my eyes for research.
All right, I'll pass over to all hands and back to you, Rajan.
Yeah, I just want to ask, what might be like the duration of time for the piloting phase before y'all like deem it to be like a successful program, or for it to have continuation? What might that block of time be?
No, that's an amazing question. So first it all starts with a pilot, right? So start with the future 20 plus scholars that are in the program. Of course, we want to, follow them, see how they're doing, see what's working. And, I'm 110% confident. And I think everyone here on this call is that this will be a successful program. And so it's just a matter of, just taking it to the next level, and just more funding, and just proving the reason why that, we need more men in the behavioral health sector, why we need more, why we need this bad. And, it's, you guys heard the numbers earlier, and, I think that this will, take off in a positive light. So.
I 100% agree with Trey, and I will add to give you maybe like a little timeline, Lahens. Like I think we're really like this year coming up from now until like the end of summer 2027 is a really crucial year for us to really see how these supports help our scholars and to really collect some strong feedback. And I think, to Trey's point, if we can get through that first year with some great, just to like learn from how this program impacts and supports our scholars, we can have some strong enough proof points to continue the pilot into the next year from like September 2027 into spring, summer 2028. And then I think after 2 strong years, just from the city side, the city government side, when you have those 2 strong years of data, then you can really like negotiate for longer term, to ensure that the program has a longer lifespan. So first year for sure, and then second year we're hoping we can get collect even more data from the supports that we're able to provide.
Perfect. Any more questions, y'all, or suggestions? All right, back to you, my friend.
Okay, one final suggestion. I was a therapist at the DA's office this last year, and I was kind of like milling around, and I found that the city offers mediation classes for employees. And again, there are mediators that are needed in and outside of the court system. Can classes be made available free for us during the summer, or like during Christmas break or something like that, where we can actually learn a skill? We're already kind of like participating in this, well, some will be participating in this program, and then they will actually be preparing, equipping us for when we graduate. Make that free for those of us who are willing to do the work during, spring break, winter break, summer. And it's the same thing with, another way to make money is during assessments and evaluations, like emotional support animals. Some of that is available through the city, but it's available to the city for $2,000, $1,500, whatever. If we're part of the program, is there a way to partner with the city to get some of that for free, empower us to do the work that you want us to do? We're here.
No, see, that's why we love these suggestions again, because it's all stuff that we could, with the power and of course with the okay, these are stuff that we could definitely incorporate into the program. So we could definitely look into that more, Ryan, for sure. Or we're not shy of asking the city for anything, so it's something that we could definitely do.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. It is at 2 o'clock on the dot. Thanks for all the feedback, for all the questions. Again, application deadline is August 10th. So if you haven't already, make sure you get your applications in. The email address for any questions is ymi@equityoffice.nyc.gov, which I know has been shared in the chat. And this session has been recorded. So we'll make sure that you can have access to that if you need it. And if there's any other questions, you can always go to the website for NYC Menhill, which you can find on YMI's landing page. If you go to just type in YMI NYC, it'll take you to the homepage, and then Menhill is right on the front page. It'll take you right there. Thank you for your participation today, y'all, and for prioritizing being in this room. We're looking forward to hopefully working with a lot of you in the future. Have a good afternoon.
All right, be well, y'all. Look forward to connecting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should stay or if I should leave, but
I'm sorry. I was like, oh my God. Like this is like I gotta end this recording. How do I do this? Okay, stop recording and also stop taking notes.